Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into a story that is shaking the foundations of modern warfare and exposing uncomfortable truths about global security. Kyiv bleeds once again as Russia unleashes what many analysts are now calling zombie missiles, weapons that are cheap, relentless, and disturbingly effective. This is not just another battlefield update. This is a warning sign for Ukraine, for NATO, and for the entire world watching this war evolve in real time. Over the past months, Kyiv has faced repeated waves of aerial attacks that feel different from earlier phases of the war. These strikes are not always precise, they are not always advanced, but they keep coming night after night. Air raid sirens echo across the city, forcing millions into shelters, draining morale, and exhausting air defense systems designed for a very different kind of conflict. The term zombie missiles has emerged to describe these weapons because they behave like something out of a horror film. Even when shot down, even when intercepted, more keep coming. They are slow, noisy, and often technologically simple. Yet they overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers. Their power does not lie in sophistication, but in persistence. Russia's strategy here appears brutally clear. Instead of relying only on expensive, high-end missiles, Moscow is flooding Ukrainian skies with a mix of old cruise missiles, modified drones, and low-cost projectiles. Some are decades old, some are repurposed from civilian technology, others are built quickly with minimal components. The goal is not elegance. The goal is exhaustion. Ukraine's air defense units are highly skilled and incredibly brave. They have achieved interception rates that many military experts once thought impossible. But even the best systems have limits. Every interceptor missile costs far more than the drone or missile it destroys. Over time, this creates an imbalance that favors the attacker. Kyiv's recent suffering highlights this imbalance in painful detail. Residential buildings have been damaged, power infrastructure has been hit, fires light up the night sky. Even when casualties are limited, the psychological impact is immense. A city cannot live forever under constant alert without consequences. This is where the story expands beyond Ukraine. NATO has long presented itself as a shield, protected by layers of advanced air defense systems and early warning networks. But the events in Kyiv raise a troubling question. If cheap, mass-produced weapons can strain Ukraine's defenses so severely, what does that say about NATO readiness for a similar saturation attack? Modern Western defense doctrine has often assumed that advanced technology will always defeat crude weapons, precision over quantity, quality over numbers. The zombie missile approach challenges that assumption directly. It suggests that in a prolonged conflict, cost and production speed may matter more than technological perfection. Russia, despite heavy sanctions, has adapted. It has simplified designs. It has sourced components creatively. It has leaned into volume rather than finesse. This adaptation shows a learning curve that many underestimated. It also reveals that sanctions, while painful, do not automatically stop a determined war economy. For NATO, this is an uncomfortable mirror. Many member states have reduced their stockpiles over decades of relative peace. Missile inventories are limited, production lines are slow, replacing advanced interceptors takes time and enormous budgets. A prolonged high-intensity conflict would test these systems in ways not seen since the Cold War. The situation in Kyiv also exposes a political dimension. Every successful Russian strike becomes a headline. Every explosion feeds narratives about Western weakness or hesitation. Even when Ukraine intercepts most incoming threats, the few that get through shape global perception. War is fought in the skies, but also in the information space. Ukraine's leadership continues to call for more air defense systems. Patriots, NASAMS, IRIS-T, and other platforms have saved countless lives. But demand now outpaces supply. Allies must decide not just whether to support Ukraine, but how much risk they are willing to accept for their own defenses. This creates tension inside NATO. Eastern members feel directly threatened and push for maximum support to Kyiv. Others worry about depleting their own arsenals. The unity remains, but the strain is visible. Moscow is likely watching closely. calculating how far it can push without triggering a broader confrontation. The human cost of these zombie missile attacks should never be lost in strategic analysis. Families sleep in metro stations. Children grow up with the sound of sirens as a normal part of life. Emergency workers rush from one strike to another, knowing the next wave may already be on the way. This is not abstract warfare, this is daily survival. Energy infrastructure has become a key target again. By striking power grids and heating systems, Russia aims to turn winter into a weapon. Even temporary outages create fear and frustration. They remind civilians that nowhere is completely safe. This pressure is designed to wear down public resilience over time. From a military standpoint, the use of low-cost, mass weapons is not new. History is full of examples where quantity changed the course of war. What is new is how this strategy collides with 21st century expectations of precision and control. High-tech armies are discovering that old principles still apply. NATO air defense systems were largely designed to counter limited numbers of advanced threats, not endless waves of simple ones. Adapting to this reality requires a shift in thinking: cheaper interceptors, faster production, layered defenses that include electronic warfare and passive measures, not just missiles. The war in Ukraine is becoming a laboratory for future conflicts. Every lesson learned over Kyiv's skies will influence military planning worldwide. Countries are watching closely, not just in Europe, but in Asia and the Middle East as well. The implications go far beyond this single war. For Russia, these attacks serve multiple purposes. They inflict damage, they drain resources, they test Western resolve, and they send a message that Russia can adapt and endure. Even as the war drags on, Moscow wants to show it still has options, still has leverage. For Ukraine, endurance is the word of the day. The country has survived far more than many thought possible. Each attack hardens experience, improves tactics, and strengthens resolve. But endurance has limits, and support from allies remains crucial. The phrase in NATO, crumbling defenses, may sound dramatic, but it reflects a genuine anxiety. Not that NATO is weak, but that it is optimized for a world that no longer exists, a world where wars were short, controlled, and distant. Ukraine shows that future wars may be long, messy, and brutally cost-effective. Public opinion in NATO countries will play a major role. As costs rise and stockpiles shrink, leaders must justify continued support. Kyiv's suffering becomes a moral argument, but also a strategic one. Stopping this strategy in Ukraine may be cheaper than facing it later at home. There is also a technological race underway. Counter-drone systems, laser defenses, and electronic jamming are no longer futuristic concepts. They are necessities. The zombie missile threat accelerates innovation, forcing militaries to rethink how they protect cities and civilians. Yet technology alone cannot solve everything. Production capacity, logistics, training, and political will matter just as much. Ukraine's experience shows that wars are not won by single systems, but by sustained effort across society and alliances. As Kyiv bleeds, the world watches and learns. Every explosion is a data point, every interception is a lesson. The tragedy is that these lessons come at such a high human cost. In the end, this story is not just about Russia or Ukraine. It is about the future of warfare. It is about whether advanced societies can defend themselves against simple, relentless threats. And it is about whether alliances can adapt quickly enough to remain credible. The skies over Kyiv are sending a message. It is loud, it is persistent, and it cannot be ignored. If zombie missiles can challenge one of the most supported air defense networks in history, then no one should assume they are immune. The coming months will be critical. Will NATO accelerate production and adapt its doctrine? Will Ukraine receive the tools it needs to protect its people? Or will this strategy continue to grind down defenses through exhaustion? One thing is certain: this war is changing how the world thinks about security. Kyiv's suffering is not just a tragedy, it is a warning, and the choices made now will shape the battlefields of tomorrow.